Right, you join me again as I'm just completing the whole of this section here, which is a return on the bricks. Now we start off with 273. This had 270, remember, on it. 270 on it. This has got 273 in there, and that automatically gives us a darker edge. And there we are, that'll do. I come round the other way and we complete the brickwork. Now what I'm done, I'm using the 182. Got to think bricks here, that's as far as I've got. So we put that in there like that, and that already looks quite nice, doesn't it? And it's always a good idea when you're starting something like this to just test run it. So I'm happy with that colour. 273, I'm going to use a smaller 273 simply because it's easy to handle. A little bit of 273 in there. Basically the same colour as that. And this is not all over, it's just here and there, giving the impression of different coloured bricks. Okay, and then we need a 187. 187. And again, best to hold the pencil like this. You don't want to press down too much on it. Just use the side of the pencil if you can. Now because we're using a stronger colour, it's better to not to put it in quite so much. The 182 was a chief colour there, and that looks good. Now we can now just put in a little bit of extra strength, and then I'll show you a surprising colour then that goes in next. That's it. That's good enough. And what I'm going to do now is use an ivory, because that will give us the kind of individual tiles. You might have, when I did the return wall there. Now you see how that ivory has transformed that. Surprising, isn't it? Okay, the return area, we're going to do the similar sort of thing. I'm just going to put a little bit of 187 in there, and then I'm going to put just a little bit of 283. When you're doing something like this, it's always a good idea to do this. Imagine that's a brick that goes in there, it's quite dark, and then it comes in here too. So you get a kind of a return. You can't do it. You don't need to do it too many times. Just here and there, where you get like that. Good. And I think that's all we need to do at the moment. We leave it, and we'll carry on with the rest. I shall do all of that all the way along there. And when I get to there, I'll break off again and show you, because it's a larger area and we have to treat that slightly differently. Right, I've arrived at the area I wanted to show you. Now, the reason I said different, because you've got a larger area involved, it's more critical to get it accurate. So I'm doing it. I've also managed to get a nice flat piece on the end of my, I don't know whether you can actually see that, you probably can't. Well, yes you can, just there. Okay? And what you do then is you use that like a little sideways on stroke to create the effects of bricks. Because you've already got the 270 underneath, you've got the mortar already in. It's a little bit like when you do flint work. In fact, a lot of brickwork is done this way. Now, when I go around that window, I'll show you what I've done in a minute with that. I've already outlined it. I'll just make sure you can see all of this, and we'll look back on it when we've done it. Now, I'm going to do this in two different sequences, so I've got to remember on what I've done. So I do make a note of this on the spare paper to make sure if I don't go back to it for a little while I remember the sequence I use. Now that looks good. I'm happy with that. You see, it looks good already. You don't have, even if you didn't do anything more to it, which we of course we're going to. Now in here's what I was going to show you. That's a hole there. Well, not a hole. It's a window of some kind. So I'm just putting, because it's a little darker in there. I'm going in with a little darker colour. That's a more solid 283. A little bit of shadow in there, and a little bit of shadow there because of the return. You already see me do that. Return there, but there I don't want it, so I'm just going to put a little bit of ivory in there because that will catch the light coming down. In there we'll have a dark colour, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to put 273 in. And then I'm not going to mess about with it, I'm going to go straight in with a 175. And that gives us our hole, our window. And that's a little darker there because obviously it'll be at its darkest. So there we are. That'll do. If we need to go back to it later, we will. Now, over here you saw me do the other colours. Well, I'm going to do the same thing all the way along there. But now we've got the pattern on there, it's easier to go in between them. Now I've done all that. I've just left that. This is where you left me when I put the ochre in. So what I do then is to use, oops, wrong colour, the 273. Again, use it on its side. Random design here and there, but not too much. You'll see there's still lots of gaps left. And then 187, like that. And then we pat it. You can see it's done quite a lot of work so far. You pat it, you know, that's not rub, that's pat. It just pushes the colour and softens the effect. And we're nearly there. And then what I do is go back over it again, at this time with a bit more pressure, and this time only here and there, not all over, just picking up the odd random brick, but with more pressure on the pencil. I only use the two pencils. And whoops. Got to find that flat part of the pencil again. That's good. Okay. And then finally, as before, we're using the ivory just to pick up the odd little brick. Like that. Now you can all return to this at any time and add a little more, but this is all I'm going to do at the moment. So there we are. And that effect is finished. Gone all the way along the end. And what I want to do now is to start picking up on these individual features. And we're going to start with this drain pipe down here. Right, I've started to put it in. What I've done, I'll show you what I've done. I've put the 273 in. I'll go down to there. 273 in. Then on top of that, I put 283. Because I imagine that we've got a rusty old drain pipe here. That's 283. And then I'm using now, and I'm just starting to do this bit, now a 175. Now this will give her the shadow on the area facing away from the light source. And that'll go down there. I normally turn this on its side because it'd be easier for me, but I don't want to lose you again. I'm putting up with the fact that I could do it like that. But that looks alright. That looks good. That'll do. Now it's got supports there, so we treat those, and I've already put the grey on there. So we put a little bit of 283 on there, and a little bit of grey on here. There's a support here. You won't see much of it on that side, more this side. And 283, and always the same sequence. And that's going to be putting it over the top of that, like that. Again, only indicate you can't do too much detail here. The thing is about this is it comes down there, it comes out. Obviously the drain pipe guttering has long gone. So what we do there, we've got to put a shadow on there because the sun will be coming, or the light source coming from here. So it will create a shadow coming from there. So we'll put that in like that. It's the same colour that I used there. And we have the shadow there. And you can always put just a smidgen of black where you want to punch a colour like that in. You can put a little bit of black. That works quite well. And the other thing you can do is you can put just, now what shall I use? I think I'll try first of all to use the light grey. I've now lost that light grey. Okay, I won't use the light grey at all, I'll use a white. I was toying with it, and what I'm going to do there is just put a little bit of light to catch a highlight on the end of that drain pipe. Just there, where it twists. Does that work? Does, you know. And also just there where that's going over. It's only a smidgen, but it's enough. Now that probably worked better than the grey. I'm glad I've found it now. There we are. That's all you need now. Just one down there. We need just I'll have to turn this round for this. I'll try to keep you in focus. Yes, there we are. Now we've got to put a little bit of shadow like this down there. So we do use our 273. .182, all our same colours, and then 175. By the time 175 goes on, you see it's weakened to quite a large extent. So now we've just got a shadow that's running down there. And just to emphasise, a touch of black on the drain pipes itself. Now that should look believable. It does, folks. There we are, that'll do. Okay, I'm going to move on to this now. Now what we got here is a bit of old corrugated tin. I can't think of what it would call it. I'm sure it would be corrugated tin or corrugated iron, isn't it? Corrugated iron? Corrugated iron. It's the same stuff they used to do the roof area we did a little while ago. And that would come down there like that. Now the only thing is, at the bottom there, it's pulled away. So we've got a shadow there. So we're just going to put that in there like that. And it's revealing, there we are, just a little bit of a hole in the window. Let's emphasise that with just a touch of black, make it look a bit more real. And back to 175. I don't want a line down there, I just want it to like hit and miss. We can use our ochre to denote the unevenness of the bricks. There. And I don't think we've got it along the top, we'll just leave the line along the top like that. And on the other side, again, I don't want to put a line in, so we'll just butt the bricks up to it. And it's the same with the bottom. Don't want a line on that either. Now that should look quite nice, eh? Now we could put some grey on. grey I couldn't find earlier. A little bit of grey. And then we'll make it look as though it... So you don't want to put the line, the corrugated line, too strong and too obvious. Make it a little bit more random. That looks quite nice. Let's just put just a little touch of colour shaper. And I don't want to... What I don't want to do there is to rub it too much, to leave the texture I've already put on. And because it's rusty, well, it'll probably be getting some rusty, we'll put some little orange on it. And a little bit of 187 I think would be quite nice. There's a little bit of, it's 109 and a little bit of 107. But because it's turned up like that, it's going to catch the light there. So we'll put the light in there like that. It's immediately facing the sun. And when we come up with him, now that looks pretty good to me. Let's have a look at it the right way up. Oh, Colin. Now, that looks good, doesn't it? Not quite right though. You see that little tiny little bit there? I put it with a pencil there. Don't like it. Now we're going to get rid of it. I'm going to try with ivory. That will get rid of it. I don't like that mark. Let's just see whether I'm being ultra fussy. There you go. Because that was great. See the difference that made? That's good. And we'll just make sure that's... I like that. I like that a lot. Good. I'll leave that for the time being.